So we pick the action back up in game 2. Luke having a domed Richard for 26 with a Blasphemous Act and 2 redirects on the Boros Reckoners. What are we looking at for a bit of sideboarding action here?
I think Luke has the advantage post sideboard because he has 2 copies of Profit Loss in his sideboard, which are pretty devastating in this matchup.
Richard leads out with a turn 1 drop here.
Yep. Richard looks like he's got a sideboard taken directly from using a copy paste on a word processor. He's using every single line on his deck list registration sheet for his sideboard. The only 2s he has in his board are 2 Tribute to Hungers and 2 Act of Treasons. The rest of his deck is 1-ofs. The rest of his sideboard is 1-ofs. We might see Electrickery from him.
He's got a Cavernous Souls in his sideboard just because I think he kind of realises he doesn't have enough land.
Potentially. Blood Artist from Luke there. Luke does also have another Blasphemous Act and 1 copy of Blood Baron in his board. Although maybe the fact that Richard has 2 copies of Blood Baron main deck, you may see that as one of the key cards in this match.
What would you say would be the weakest cards main deck from both these players that might be coming out?
Very possibly Falcon Wrath. At this, I mean, X1s don't do particularly well against Tragic Slips and Lingering Souls. In fact, they do pretty badly against both of those cards, really. Underworld Connections is more than likely coming out of Richard's deck. I don't think he can really afford the life loss in this game.
Well, Richard's doing his best to clear the board on Luke's side.
Yep. And he's making a demon turn 3, so...
Luke could really be doing with miracling a bonfire or something like that.
Well, there's only Blasphemous Act that he's got here, so if... one thing that Richard might want to do is think about really managing how many creatures he's got in play. Although Luke's not going to let him, he's just going to make Lingering Souls, so Luke is saying, I've got Blasphemous Act mana up next turn no matter what. Richard has a Sorin there, so he is he's boarded that in as well. He does have 1 Sorin in his sideboard.
So we're seeing the Demon Swing.
Nope.
And something else. There we go.
Yep, there we go. All of it.
Just holding back with the Blood Artist, and Luke takes it all.
Yep.
So
I think probably signifying everything's going to disappear this coming turn.
let's see whether he remembers to swing back first before doing that.
Oh, we've still got the second main phase for Richard. I believe his hand is Falcon Wrath, Aristocrat, Lingering Souls, Sorin, so depends if he wants to commit anything more to the board at this point. One thing he must be thinking of is that if Luke doesn't have Blasphemous Act here, Richard can just make another demon at end of Luke's turn, and that will pretty much kill Luke straight up. So it's whether he wants to risk playing that Lingering Souls, and he decides it's a risk worth taking at this point because so he can just trigger the Skursdag High Priest.
And if
again.
Luke does attack, that will give away what he's got.
Pretty much. Although if he does attack, I don't think he can risk attacking, because if he attacks, Richard's just going to block with his 2 spirits, and Luke can no longer
He can attack with 1.
Yeah. It's like he can't attack with both, otherwise Richard can just snap block with both his spirits, and he'll end up out of Blasphemous Act range. Richard has missed his 4th land drop as well, so Luke might be thinking about what Richard's possibly got as backup in this situation.
Right now it's looking like they've both missed their 4th land drop.
Well, Luke's still thinking.
I don't really see there being anything to think about if he does have a Blasphemous Act. He's kind of forced into that spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a pretty good clean-up. It's like Richard will be left with a Cartel Aristocrat and a Spirit from his Doom Traveller. Well, that High Priest just cannot be allowed to live for much longer, otherwise it's going to dominate this match.
If Luke doesn't have a Blasphemous Act, then things are looking pretty grim.
Also strange that Richard, the one with the fewest Skursdag High Priests in his deck, is the one who's seen them in this match so far. So Luke is running 3, I believe Richard is only running the 2. Definitely deep in the tank here. I see a profit loss in his hand.
Maybe he's hoping if he stares at cards long enough, one of them will turn into a Blasphemous Act.
That never happens for you? It might happen on Magic Online where someone just suddenly rewrites the code. Oh, that's Blood Artist from Luke. So, and again, Richard declines to make a demon at end of turn there, even though he had the opportunity to do so.
That's something that players occasionally do when they're in Luke's position, is they take so long over their turn that their opponent just completely forgets what their game plan is.
But again, potentially playing around Tragic Slip as well there. But I mean, I don't think he can play around Tragic Slip there. It's just the fact that as soon as he sacrifices a creature, he gains Morbid. So even if Luke has Tragic Slip, he just makes a demon. So the worst that can happen is Luke kills his demon. So yeah, potential miss there from Richard.
Well, he can't possibly be thinking not to attack here.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good not to attack. I mean, I know the Blood Artist is going to take a bit of a chunk out of your life total, but I don't think you can just sit back and hope here at this point, because sooner or later that Blasphemous Act's going to fall off the top of your opponent's deck.
Yeah, you just got to swing for the hills really here.
I mean, I just think the lot comes in. Has Richard drawn a land there?
So we're thinking that maybe Richard missing out on that demon.
I think so. I mean, the worst that's going to happen there is that Luke Tragic Slips the demon.
Yeah, so he's just trading 1-for-1 between a Tragic Slip and a human there.
Well, a Tragic Slip and his Doom Traveller, which comes back as a spirit anyway.
So nothing changes there. That's still gonna lose that guy if he does have a Tragic Slip.
Yeah. So I think he very well may have. What he might have done is respond to the Blood Artist with the Morbid trigger. That might have been more optimal at that point. Oh, deciding on attacks again. So he has drawn the 4th land. So he has he could just really swing for the hills here and go for Sorin Emblem and Smash.
Seems like a solid choice right now, to be honest. You'd think if Luke could sweep, he would have done.
Yeah, you would think he would have done it by now. I think Richard's lamenting the fact he can't put Luke on exactly dead. I think the best he can do is put Luke to 1 here, if I'm right. If Luke blocks correctly, that is.
But then surely that just involves you drawing a Blood Artist at any point in the game after that.
Yeah, well, Richard's just deciding to swing at this point, so... Currently a total of 10 coming in. I think Luke's probably going to at least chump the demon. He's going to... we'll see if he decides to do anything about the Doom Traveller or the Aristocrat. Nope, he's just going to block the demon. So Luke's going to go down to 7, and then the Blood Artist trigger is going to put him back up to 8, and Richard drops to 14. So again, Richard can threaten Demon next turn. He just flashes back Lingering Souls and is in the same situation he was last turn.
Well, he can't decide, by the look of it, between that and Sorin.
I think if he was going to play Sorin, he probably should have done it already. Yeah, he's going to flashback Lingering Soul, so he is threatening Demon again, and Luke's going to show him that tragic slip that he's been saving for quite a long period of time, it seems.
Well, hasn't really been fooling anyone with it.
No. But High Priest is down, so that's a pretty loaded side of the board from Richard's side, so Luke is definitely going to need to see Blasphemous Act here, or it's going to be pretty much good night.
Well, if he had it, he would have done it by now.
He does have Profit Loss in hand. That's going to be a pretty... that'd sting quite a bit when you cast that.
With some players who are not quite sure what that card does.
The profit side of it is +1/+1 to all your creatures, and the loss side is -1/-1 to all your opponent's creatures. And Luke again in the tank. Been going for 11 minutes here. I think we're on about turn 5, aren't we?
Tapping land for mana is tough.
Luke's going to flashback. Is he going to flashback Lingering Souls?
He's trying to stall as much as possible here.
Yeah. If Richard has... if Richard has something like Electrickery or... Profit Loss himself. I mean, he doesn't have that in his deck, sadly for him, but... oh, more spirits coming in. Come loaded with spirits if you're playing a deck with Lingering Souls in it.
Well, Luke did. He just...
had to give them all to Richard.
he's been loaning them out.
I think it's one of the tokens that we bring a lot of to tournaments. Those spirit tokens.
So no demon from Richard anyway.
He's probably thinking at this point, Demon lived.
How's that Sorin looking in your hand there?
I think on the table and emblems probably what we're going to see this turn. Well, there's the on the table part. It's now... I don't think the lifelink vampire really does a lot at this point. So the only thing it does is potentially keep Sorin alive, but I'm pretty sure Richard's more interested in killing his opponent now. Yep,
Indeed, there is an emblem.
Really well stocked here from our judges.
So what does this mean for Richard now? What does the emblem do?
It gives all of his creatures +1/+0. So if he turns everything sideways, we're going to be looking at an attack for, I think, 17 here, somewhere along those... 19 actually, if you include the Doom Traveller. It's a pretty hefty attack coming in now.
So he's going to have to use all 4 of his blockers.
I think he's probably going to need to use all 3 of his spirits plus... yeah, if he blocks with all 3 of his spirits and lets the other spirits through, that would put him to 1, and then he'd go back up to 5 based on whatever's died. Blood Artist doing work. I think his best block is on the Doom Traveller as well, because at least then there's no chance of a...
yeah, I mean, if possible, he wants to be able to swing back and kill Sorin as well.
Unfortunately, I don't think he has that option at this point. I mean, he does have Profit Loss in hand, so he would be able to pump up his Blood Artist and swing for the last point on the Sorin if necessary. But facing down a 6/5 demon at that point, it's life looking pretty grim. So yeah, Luke's going to make what we think are the correct blocks here. And, yep, Richard just says, sure, combat damage, puts Luke down to 1. And we get 4 triggers off the Blood Artist there. And somehow between the pair of them they've agreed that 13 minus 4 is 8, but once again we are putting up what we believe to be the correct life totals here.
Yeah, we actually zoomed in on the pads of the players, and we saw that they did both agree on 8 being the life total there.
In how much it's going to... I mean, once again, we saw in the quarterfinals how important keeping track of your life total correctly is.
So it looks like Luke just drew another split card there.
Profit loss would be a little bit of a clean up here. He would gain... he'd gain, again, another 5 life, but... So he would live for one more turn after that, but... he really is splashing up against the... he's up against it here, definitely.
If you stare at your life total long enough, maybe it'll triple to 15.
You wouldn't mind that.
You know, he only has 1 play to stay alive here, so he might as well go ahead and make it.
Just making sure that Sorin's on the correct number there. I'm sure I can see a red card in Luke's hand there. And Blasphemous Act will gain him an awful lot of life at this point.
And something that he would have done already had he got it.
Mm.
I can't imagine him taking this long if he does have one.
I mean, that might be a mark of mutiny or something along those lines. Can't really get a good look at it from this angle. And he just says go.
So what could Luke possibly have?
I think it's got to be profit loss at this point. I think it's 5 to fuse it together.
Pre-combat spells here.
Blood Artist from Richard.
That's going to end the game. Luke has to respond to that.
Yep. And it's 5 mana and it is a fused profit and loss. And we got a reader.
What does that card do? Says Richard.
Well, it actually cleans up the vast majority of your board, Richard.
Confucius say stuff goes away.
Yeah. So I think Cartel Aristocrat's going to get protection from every colour in Magic. And Richard goes down to 4 and Luke up to 10. Now remember that they do believe that Richard is on 3 at this point as well. Blood Artist now resolves. And Richard crashes in for 9, putting Luke back on 1. Yeah, he's going, make Doom Traveller pass to your upkeep, I believe is what's going to happen here. By the way, I'm the active player. I do apologise, Richard's attack was for 7 there due to the profit and loss, so the creatures get the +1 from Sorin but the -1 from...
So he's going to put the Doom Travellers... Sorry, he's going to put the Blood Artists on the stack, and we're going to see a trick that we previously saw in, I think, round 6 or round 5.
7 it was, round 7 it was, the zombie mirrors.
So he's going to let his own Blood Artist resolve, and then put another pair of Blood Artist triggers on the stack.
Yep.
And there's nothing Luke can do about this. So he only has to watch in horror.
As he ticks down all the way from 3 to 0. I think I don't know whether he's confirming with the judge that this is what happens or not, but
Yeah, it's amazing how many people make it to a PTQ top 8 and don't actually know the rules of Magic.
no, he don't. I'm pretty sure that Luke does know. So what he's doing is, with the first sacrifice on the stack, he's casting Profit and Loss. We're going to create the world's most complex stack. And is he going to force Luke to just do it at...
But it really doesn't change anything, surely.
Well, he's going to try and kill his Blood Artist. I don't think that...
You can just respond by sacrificing the Blood Artist.
Yeah, you respond by sacrificing the Demon and the Blood
Putting
Artist.
another effect on the stack,
letting it
resolving
resolve.
your own.
Yep.
But it will leave one of the Blood Artist triggers resolving first before the last of Richard's. So yeah, this might very well get Luke back up.
Yep.
So he just had a piece of paper and actually just wrote down all the effects in order.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot easier for them all to work out.
Yep. So let's see what Richard chooses here.
Well, you guys are going to die, so
Richard's still just trying to work out to himself where on the stack everything is.
this is why we have judges and this is why we have pens and paper.
Yeah. I will put forward the point at this time that Lee Parker, who's one of our guys who has done coverage with us in the past, he was currently jumping up and down because he was so excited at the prospect of stack abuse. So I guess is Richard just going to let it happen? Yep. Yep, he does just let it happen. All the Blood Artist triggers resolve. And Luke now gets a turn to try and save himself. Despite the fact he's tapped out, this could be quite difficult. Maybe he was trying to convince Richard to put all his guys in the bin to try and outstack him there. And it's going to be quite difficult with no mana there, Luke, I think.
And Luke scoops up the cards and we go to a decider to see who makes it through to the WMCQ final.